You were told this was a war between America and Iran. It wasn't. The most powerful weapon ever used against the West was a spreadsheet. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes on Iran. The world watched, but someone else was already several moves ahead. Explosions ripped through Tehran. IRGC bases destroyed. Within hours, the Middle East was in flames. But this is not the story you think it is. 400 F-35 sorties in the first 48 hours. Bunker-busting bombs, Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from 3 directions simultaneously, the most coordinated strike package in modern history. Iran's nuclear program, buried 80 meters underground, was obliterated. Within the Farsi scrambled, Iran fired back, and the war that would reshape the entire world economy had officially begun. Inside IRGC command, generals activated a plan they had been preparing for years. Not just a military response, an economic one. Iran's retaliation was fierce, but 5,000 miles away in Beijing, a very different kind of weapon was already being deployed. One that needed no warhead, the Strait of Hormuz, just 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Yet through this single choke point flows 20% of every barrel of oil consumed on Earth, every single day. 20 armed IRGC speedboats launched within minutes of the order. Their mission was not to fight the U.S. Navy, it was simpler: block every tanker, stop every ship, make the world's oil tap run dry. Within 72 hours, 17 supertankers had turned back. Oil shipments from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, and Iraq all halted. Ship captains across the Gulf received the same message from their companies: do not proceed. Turn around. The insurance on your vessel has just been voided. No ship, no cargo, no oil.
Within 48 hours of the Strait closing, crude oil hit $112 a barrel. Within a week, $140. Governments began to panic.
Fuel queues appeared across Europe and America. Trucking suspended. Airlines cancelled routes. Every economy runs on oil, and the tap was off. Trap number 1 was complete. The Strait of Hormuz, the jugular vein of global oil supply, had been sealed. But Trap 2 was already sprung. China suspended all export licenses: fertilizer, rare earths, battery components, pharmaceuticals. Ships stopped loading overnight. The world didn't notice immediately. That was the point. China produces more fertilizer than any country on Earth. When exports stopped, global urea prices surged 40% in 2 weeks. Farmers simply could not afford to plant. China controls 90% of global rare earth processing. Without it, no EV batteries, no fighter jets, no smartphones, no missiles. The West was fighting a war it could no longer supply. For an entire year before the war began, China had been stockpiling 1 million barrels of oil every single day. While the world scrambled for fuel, China needed absolutely no one. This was not an accident, this was architecture. While every Western economy began to bleed, China was insulated, protected, and watching. Both traps had been sprung. The world was only beginning to feel the pain. Food prices began rising the moment fertilizer ran short. Wheat up 30%, rice up 45%. Supermarket shelves that were full 1 week were stripped bare the next. Farmers across India, Pakistan, Brazil, and the American Midwest faced an impossible choice: plant without fertilizer and get half a harvest, or simply don't plant at all. Millions waited, the harvest never came. Jet fuel tripled in 5 weeks. Lufthansa, United, British Airways began suspending routes. Cathay Pacific added a 105% fuel surcharge. Global aviation was collapsing under the weight of the crisis. The Dow Jones fell 2,400 points in a single session. European markets lost $3 trillion in 1 week. Pension funds, savings, retirement portfolios all evaporating. The worst panic since 2008. Governments that had cheered the war on Iran now faced their own populations in the streets. Fuel, food, and medicine, the 3 things every government promises, all failing simultaneously. The political fallout had begun. United Nations issued its highest famine alert for 17 countries simultaneously. 30 million people faced acute starvation within 90 days, casualties of a war fought by countries they had nothing to do with. 2 pressure points, one on oil, one on food and industry, applied simultaneously. This was not chaos, this was a precisely engineered global economic chokehold. The architect had never fired a single bullet. The strategy had a name: the 2 pressure point doctrine. Force your enemy into a hot war in one theater while you wage a cold economic war from the other. Win without fighting. At the peak of the crisis, China offered to mediate, to broker peace, to restart exports. The price was Western acknowledgement of Chinese dominance over Taiwan and the South China Sea. For 20 years, China built ports, railways, and pipelines across 140 countries. Not vanity, a parallel global economy. Saudi Arabia announced it would accept Chinese yuan for oil. The petrodollar system, America's financial foundation since 1974, had just received its deepest wound in 50 years. Country by country, the global order was shifting, not because they loved China, because China had oil, food, and medicine, and the West, for the first time in a century, could guarantee none of them. For the first time since World War II, America found itself isolated, its allies struggling, its economy bleeding. The century of American dominance was not ending with a bang. Beijing had not fired a single missile, had not lost a single soldier, spent nothing on war. Yet China had moved from second to the undisputed center of global power. Empires never fall in battle, they fall when they lose control of trade. The Silk Road, the British pound, the American dollar, whoever controls the choke points, controls the world. The most powerful weapon ever used against the West was a spreadsheet. And the world walked straight into it.